We open with this full-scale assault by Damon and Craghas upon the monstrous crab feeder. It highlights the power of these medieval atomic weapons and also shows how this battle in the Stepstones has been transpiring. The crab feeder attacks, Damon retaliates, and then the crab feeder's forces retreat back into the safety of these caves on this beach. Three years have passed since the last episode, and Rhaenyra seems to be this embittered teenager, despondent to her father's authority. The king now has a son and another child on the way, and they're mounting this massive regal hunt to celebrate the king's son's second name day. Having this story play out over a longer period of time with these jumps in between each episode gives it a feeling of significance and epicness. It feels more like a historical story playing out than some random, nonsensical, pointless narrative.
Well, you will be with your own child sooner than later, and make me a proud grandsire.
Some old lady then confronts Rhaenyra and, oh my god, there's a pug!
But the crown is such a war. The crown.
There he is!
Where do you see some?
Now he's eating some cake! Rhaenyra is approached by this budding Lannister and thinking that her father means to sell her off. They confront each other and erupt into anger in front of all these royal dignitaries. I don't envy Viserys having to deal with the kingship and having to deal with a teenage daughter. But in saying that, a lot of the problems that Viserys is now dealing with are because that he orchestrated them and they really are his own fault.
And I have tried often to discuss it with you, but you've refused me at every turn.
That is because I do not wish to get married.
Even I do not exist above tradition and duty, Rhaenyra.
Excuse me, Your Grace.
I loved this little sequence of Sir Criston chasing after Rhaenyra. It was shot so well. It had all these amazing angles of these horses just galloping full clip. I found myself trying to analyze it though and being pulled out of the moment and going into film analytic mode, seeing if they were stunt riders, seeing if any of the shots had the actual actors riding in them, wondering if they'd used CGI face replacement or some kind of prosthetics to mask these stunt riders. But in any case, it was very beautifully shot and it didn't need to be shot this well, but it just shows to the level of ability and enthusiasm that the creators of this show have. The deeply troubled and eternally conflicted king then proceeds to down copious amounts of red wine as numerous individuals approach him and try to win his daughter's hand in marriage. Marry her off to a 2-year-old brother. Marry her to the sea snake's son. Marry her to that Lannister lord. All these options are completely intolerable to Rhaenyra, but one option does eventually need to be picked at some point in time.
The boy just turned 2, Otto.
Yes, but it would cease the endless proposals for Rhaenyra's hand.
The best line in this episode has to be, I came here to hunt, not to be suffocated by all this fucking politicking, venomously shot at Sir Otto by the Blotto King.
Betroth them.
I came here to hunt, not to be suffocated by all this fucking politicking.
I was just waiting for the jump scare after this prolonged, tense sequence, lulling us all into a state of compelled anxiety. A boar then charges at Rhaenyra and Sir Criston, breaking their extremely strong sexual tension. They both contribute to its brutal slaughter, and I'm left wondering what this all means. Is it an allegory for their future, or is it just some random sequence where they're out in the wild and attacked by a boar and I'm reading too much into it? I don't know. It seems to be all this symbology in this episode. In a moment of deep character introspection, Viserys writhes in the guilt he has for pushing his wife to fulfill his vision and give him a male heir. He also confides in Alicent that he's conflicted about letting Rhaenyra be his heir. It was a really deep and emotional moment, and I loved the way it was shot. It was visually striking, and it was just complex and analytical into this character's deep and interesting, conflicted psyche. I loved it.
My obsession killed Rhaenyra's mother.
Viserys.
I thought Rhaenyra was the way out of my abyss of grief and regret.
This somber, sad, and dark sequence of the king killing a restrained stag is then presented to us. He seems hesitant to murder this animal and misses his heart the first time and has to strike again. It seems symbolic of his own situation, being restrained by all these people without an option to really make his own decisions, being controlled by the puppet masters above him. Does this mean that his own life will end in some brutal, violent demise? Who knows? In any case, it was very compelling. I miss the days where real animals were actually on film, but I completely understand why CGI was utilized for this sequence. It's just a million times easier. It does always take me out a little bit though when I see these CGI animals in these real gritty dramas. It's just like, it's not a stag, it's not a boar, it's a fucking cartoon. No, it was a good scene. It's just a pet peeve of mine. Maybe a couple shots of a real deer. Maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? It was good. The white stag then presents itself to Rhaenyra, and she chooses to spare its life, showing that the gods are favoring her and that her life won't be ended in any abrupt or violent manner. Maybe, I don't know, who knows? It seems like it means something. Perhaps an episode down the line will provide some type of context and meaning to this moment, or maybe it was just some random moment which you can read into in any way, shape or form that you like. Either way, it does seem to be deliberately symbolic, hinting towards something. In any case, Rhaenyra rocks back up to the camp, covered in blood and intensity, as Gawkers stare at this renegade, this outsider, this blood-covered teenage girl. Viserys and Rhaenyra get this little moment of inter-character confrontation. Rhaenyra just is embittered by the whole sentiment of the kingdom and their anti-female heir sentiments. But really, King Viserys here is just an open, sincere, and loving father. He says that he swears on her mother's memory that he will keep her as heir. He gives her the ability to choose her own future spouse, and he seems to want nothing but the best for her. I feel like he's gonna die at some point, and then the conflict, the dance of dragons is gonna escalate. There's gonna be some kind of Targaryen civil war between Rhaenyra and Damon and the king's new heirs. But it's surprising to me that Viserys seems, at this point, like he's fully in support of Rhaenyra as his heir and wants her to be happy and succeed and thrive.
But I swear to you now, on your mother's memory, you will not be supplanted.
Without a single word of dialogue, Damon takes center stage in the last part of this episode. He discovers that the king means to come and save the day and takes out his anger on the king's messenger, brutally beating him. He then climbs aboard a rowboat and all alone enters into the crab feeder's lair, right into his claw, if you will.
Though time and circumstance have seen us estranged, know that it is not my business.
This whole surrender sequence is flavored by this surreal score and this ominous tone. The cinematography is dark and murky, and Damon's motivations are so up in the air. You have no idea why he's here or what he's trying to doing. But in any case, the music, the tone, and the cinematography are really compelling and interesting to me. Like a 90s action hero, covered in full plate plot armor, Damon slashes down multiple adversaries, dodging many an arrow, and just runs through the crab feeder's forces with intensity and anger. In a very well shot action sequence, Damon is struck down by arrows and is seemingly spending his last moments here, but it turns out that he's baited the crab feeder's forces out of the protection of their caves, and just as that moment happens, dragon fire rains down upon them and the sea snake's forces swell into this massive, epic, awesome, amazing, brutal action sequence. This action sequence was really good. It seemed different in setting from any other sequence that we've seen in Game of Thrones so far. They built this on a backlot and they had to dress all this area to look like a real beach that was also a battlefield and also burnt up. It was well edited, the cinematography was nice, it had that quick camera movement of Peter Jackson and the early Lord of the Rings movies with all the blood and the confusion and the randomness of war. I can't say enough about the costumes, the cinematography, the sets, the design, the action, just the sheer level of quality of this show. It looks amazing. Damon then strides across the battlefield with a brutal piece of the crab feeder's torso in tow. I love the sheer violence of the imagery of this moment. I liked the crab feeder and I wish he had lasted longer. He was really interesting and different as an antagonist, but I guess it's all worth it just for Damon to have this momentous moment at the end of this episode here. In conclusion, this episode was amazing. It's delving so deep into the fucking politicking. It's a deep examination of all these conflicted and complex characters and the dynamics between their relationships and the political intrigue on top of that. Damon had this beautiful ending piece here where he didn't speak one word of dialogue, but it all erupted into his momentous victory overshadowing his brother, trying to save him, and the battle was just so well executed and interesting. I'm completely on board with this show. I don't give a fuck about Game of Thrones or what happened there. I don't care that I've waited 117 years for the next installment of A Song in Fire and Ice. I tried to come into this with an open and honest mind and analyze it for what it is, and so far, 3 episodes in, it's fucking great! So, I'll see you all next week. Thank you and good night.